Is it recording? Yeah, it's recording.
Yeah,
Chas,
it's already recording.
thank you very much. So, Chas, we got Dave. Dave contacted us a couple of weeks ago because I know you're banging to the whole suicide prevention. You're a bit of a mental health advocate. Am I right in saying that?
I was really worried you were going to say you're banging to suicide then. I was going to say very much the opposite, mate. I'm very, very much the opposite.
Yeah,
So,
no,
yeah, I
we're not
do.
supportive of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Always good to get that in
No, no,
straight
yeah, yeah,
off the
no,
bat.
exactly that. But you also, and I don't want to say this, but the reason being is because I did a comedian about a year or 2 years ago, and we were talking about some hard stuff, and people like that wasn't funny. Was that
I,
just
it,
because he's a comedian doesn't mean he's not being paid to make you laugh right now.
yeah,
We're talking about mental
being
health.
being being such a pedant, that's why I really hate the idea of I try never, if I can avoid it, to call myself comedian, because a stand-up comic is something you do, a comedian is something you are. And I tell you what, I am not a funny person in day-to-day life. I tell you what, mate, I'm currently at the Edinburgh Fringe, and I can tell you there's a lot of audiences that would say I'm not funny on stage either. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think is, yeah, people instantly think that you're gonna sort of pop jokes and so. And don't get me wrong, my sort of thing is I try and use humor in order to talk about mental health, but that's mainly because I don't know if you feel this. I feel like mental health, for whatever reason, has become very bubble wrapped, very middle class, very chintzy, very feminized. Like you can't talk about mental health without having those like footprint in the sand Instagram posts and stuff like that. And look, you know, if you go onto a building site or if you go into most kind of, you know, locker rooms, etc., I don't think that the people that need it, the people that really do need help with their mental health, I don't think that's reaching them.
No, no, I agree, and that's something what we've preached quite a lot, literally since day one of Man Up. It is I my perspective. I hate that word now because everyone's like my perspective and whatever else, and it's just like a buzzword. But the thing is with me, I realised when we talk about men and mental health, instantly it's suicide, 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 suicide.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I know loads of blokes. I used to run a soup kitchen and all sorts. Loads of them would never do like that instant thing, but they will drink themselves to death. They'll basically snort themselves to death over a long period of time. And I started to realise, I'm like, okay, so they're slipping through the suicidal net and the men's mental health net. We're not. Do you get what I mean? Everything's about men's mental health, and I think that makes a lot of blokes go, well, that's not me. And that,
But here's the rub, and I think this is something that I'm sort of obsessive about at the moment, not only personally, but also sort of professionally. We talk about, yes, suicide, I think you're absolutely right, but also those things like drink, drugs, self-harm, substance abuse. And of course, they are so detrimental long term, but we always overlook that in the short term, they are bad things. They are not sustainable. They are not good ways of coping.
yeah.
But there is a reason that people turn to booze. And I want to know what the substitute is. Because whenever I had an eating disorder and whenever I had my eating disorder, people always talked about recovery as taking the eating disorder away. Not a single person, nobody talked about giving anything back. And I'm more interested in being pragmatic. So I'm kind of interested to know in what substitutes there are, what you can gain from getting better mental health rather than what you lose by recovering.
You got me thinking now.
Because well, you were saying that's why I'm kind of
I
interested
agree
because
with you.
you
I just I
hit
don't know
on
how to
one.
respond. Yeah, yeah.
It's because it's little things that I think that really help your mental health. And the reason I kind of bring this up, not only because it's something I'm obsessed about, but you said just before we started, there's something that has helped your mental health. And
yeah.
I found that really interesting. God, tell me about what you were going to say. You started a
Well,
sentence and I
yeah.
cut you off.
I ended up buying a little local juicing business. because do you know, I think you've triggered something. There's another buzzword, and I think you've just reminded me. I think maybe I got that to give me, because after COVID, just like everybody else, like obviously COVID, business went down and all this kind of. I can imagine you got it with your thing as well. Obviously, I don't want to trigger you, mate, and all this kind of bring back those memories. So I think I kind of, after COVID, of like dealing with directors and saving this, I was totally and utterly burnt out because I was trying to fix everyone else's
Mm.
problems, blah 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 blah, helping trying to not sack people. So I think once COVID and life started to kick back in, I don't think I had actually. I felt like I'd lost my purpose.
Yes,
So I ended
I
up,
think that's the word.
yeah, and I see that a lot with men. I think that there is that, especially with suicides and all this kind of stuff. What annoys me about suicides is I think society thinks that a bloke who's basically about to top himself or has killed himself was out of control. They've lost the plot and they're really upset. And they've just suddenly decided to jump off a bridge. Actually, I've spoken to hundreds of people over the years, probably thousands of people over the years, a few a month, normally of the wives, the sons, the daughters, the granddads of people left behind are when they've done like a fundraiser at a funeral or something like that, it's actually a logical decision. It's normally been well planned out.
Oh, 100%. And this, so I do suicide prevention training
Yeah.
for a sort of charity, and the
Which,
guy that
which
set it
charity is
up
it?
is it's a fantastic charity, and I don't want to plug, but I have nothing to do with it. It's called Chasing the Stigma,
Well,
and
okay.
it runs the Hub of Hope, which is the UK's biggest mental health database. So it's an app or a website that uses your device's geolocation to pinpoint all of the mental health services around you. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. And I think it's a wonderful free resource. But the guy that set it up, the CEO, Jake, is a great lad. And he was saying, and it always stuck with me, that when he chatted to his mates about feeling suicidal, and he did chat to his mates, they turned around to him and they said, "Oh, don't be selfish. Think about your son. Think about your wife. Think about your family." And he said that made it worse because he was thinking about his son, he was
Yeah.
thinking about his wife, and he was thinking about family. And he said, "I think it's better me taking myself out of the picture for them, not for me." And it's exactly like you say, people think that it's almost like an instinctive thing that they've just thought in between watching the 6 o'clock news and going out to walk the dog. It's not. For a lot of people, it is a very well planned out, thought through thing.
Exactly, and that's why we don't really talk about suicide that much, because we try
No.
to change minds way earlier. Just my disclaimer: when I say logical decision, I'm not saying it is a logical decision, but in their head,
Mm.
I don't know, the wife's left, there's a debt, or the kids are moved out, the kids are happy and they've got a house. Do you get what I mean? Actually,
Yeah.
a lot of blokes, they're like, I'm done. I'm
But
literally,
and
I'm done.
to touch on your point, I think the reason that the message isn't getting through at an earlier stage is because we do just talk about mental illness. We never talk about mental health. We never talk about prevention. We never talk about fun, humor, enjoying it, connection, productivity, purpose. It's always talking about the really important stuff like suicide, like substance abuse, etc. But you never have any fun with it. If you talk about if you talk about physical health, you will talk about cold press juicing or all of those absolute bell ends that do couch to 5K and are so boring about. Look, I hate exercise, but people get so on it when you're talking about couch to 5K and running, and good on them because it sounds exciting, it sounds fun. It's just not for me. But with mental health, we never do that. Mental health is always serious. Mental health is always tragic.
I agree with it, and I think a lot of mental health talk is very, very feminine as well.
Mm.
So, for example, and I've taken a bit of stick where, like, I'm not anti telling men to cry. I'm not, and I get. I'm not. You probably were. I'm just not an emotional person at all. I'm just really.
Mm.
I will come for a pint with you. I'll come for a walk. Like I do wild camping quite a lot. That's my little another
Do
vice.
you?
Yeah, no, I love it, mate. Yeah, there's nothing better going on a mountain in winter. And like sometimes -20 in a tent for like 4 nights. I've got no mobile phone signal. at all. All I can do is either read or literally do nothing. And I go there with like,
You're there with your thoughts.
yeah.
That's terrifying.
No, but do you know what? I go there, I think, is there a bit of masculine thing of like the wife going, oh, you bloody mentor and all this kind of stuff for doing it? Of course there is. But it means it means that I go there and sometimes I mean like 4 foot of snow and all this kind of in me in my tent. I have to survive. So I can go there with man up problems. I can go there with, oh, that Dave bloody pretty upset me and all this kind. I can go there with a million and one problems in my head, not knowing how to resolve any because they're all rattling around. And I don't know what to deal with first. Because you've got to bear in mind, men want to fix our own problems. We can present, we can offer our help all we can, but until men can work out how to fix their own problems, it's never going to end, just in my personal. So I can go there with my brain completely and utterly full, and because I'm forced to switch off, live on my little camp stove and survive and stuff like that. I go there like I've been picked up, shaken about a little bit. All the little stupid problems of, oh, that dickhead Dave comedian who pissed me off last week. That's actually not, that's not a problem. So I can come back and go, right, I need to fix that. I need to do that, and I know what I need to do.
Yeah, that would
And
you
I
say that's your happy place?
oh, without question, either that or about or when I'm racing motorbikes at 150, 180 mile an hour with mates around a racetrack and all this kind of stuff. Because I think for me it's about I've had to learn that I need to I absorb so much information, but I'm no Bill Gates or anything like that. I just take it all in and go, oh, I don't know what to deal with it. And my brain's just like, just having a life wobble. So I go there I have to force myself to switch off. And I think that's what we're not promoting enough is actually to go, but do you know what, if you want to just sit there watching EastEnders in your pants with your dog called Geraldine, in my case, do you know what, that's absolute, and that is a pug. That's absolutely all right to do. If you
Oh,
want,
100%.
if you
I
want,
do have to ask though, is your dog genuinely called Geraldine?
yeah, absolutely.
That's an incredible name.
I,
That is
I
an amazing name.
well, the thing is with Geraldine, we've got another pug called. I've always hated pugs. I've always hated them, but since we've been married, my wife's always said she wouldn't want. So we've got one called Betty, and I hate that dog. I absolutely hate that dog. And then yeah, again, just after COVID, I remember we shared like a bottle of wine or something like that. I think she was thinking a bit got to her. And she comes back. Remember during COVID when you can meet outside or in people's gardens?
Yeah.
We'd had like a bottle of wine, maybe 2 bottles of wine or something like that. And she comes back and she went basically greened out. Come back from the bedroom like feels like she's like, Dan, don't get cross. Which as a husband, I'm gonna get cross straight away. I was like, what have you done? What have I done?
Yeah.
And she was like, I've bought you a dog. My birthday was on like 3 months. So I'm like, how are we going to do that? Because we can't go and view it. She's like, oh no, it's fine. We're going to go and meet them and all this kind. I was like, don't tell me we're going to go and meet somebody in Tesco fucking car park to look at a dog. And she was like, no, and it did turn out to be like a proper breeder. She had to put a deposit on it because obviously it was all time wasted. And when she showed me a photo, I fell in love with it. This dog was beautiful. I fell in love with it. It's a black and white pug as well, so it's so unique. But the reason I called it Geraldine is because my wife hates the name. No, because I know straight away. I know what she tried to do. She was like, I'm going to say I bought him a dog. He'll get bored of it, and it'll be my dog. So I've made damn well sure that is my dog.
That is great.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal work.
Yeah.
I have noticed though, dogs are a real connective point for blood. It feels like something that's okay to kind of bond over. Because I used to hate dogs. I got bitten by one when I was a kid, and it was like a mix between a Staffordshire Bull Terrier and like a wolf. It was massive, and for it. But now we met. Have you ever heard of that app, Borrow My Doggy?
No, but I'm not gonna search for it.
I like.
Because
It's not going to spam you.
Yeah.
It's basically it's Tinder for dogs, right? It connects people who have dogs with people who love dogs, and you get to walk them. And we met up with so many brilliant dogs, and we now dog sit twice a week. And dogs are phenomenal for your mental health. Brilliant.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. The one thing I would say on that, because I remember I saw something by a mental health charity what said if you're struggling with mental health, get a dog. And I you can probably see where I'm going. As somebody who's got two
Yeah.
dogs, never get two dogs, pain in the ass, because you can't go on holiday.
Yes. Yeah.
And then that's the thing. But actually, I would say I love the idea of borrowing walking dogs. But the thing is if you're really struggling to, let's face it, like get out of bed, sometimes you can't even feed yourself.
Yeah.
Do not get a dog, because that'll actually make you feel worse.
100%. That's why for us, like just walking the dog, and it's also you do it unpaid as well.
Yeah,
So if you like, look, if you're having a rough day or if a meeting comes up, you don't really feel. I don't want to be an arse about it, but you don't feel too guilty to say, by the way, that unpaid job that we're doing, I can't do it today because I've actually got income coming in, sort of thing.
yeah, yeah.
And that's why I think it's been brilliant. And I think all pubs should have a pub dog.
Yeah,
I really believe that.
yeah, no, I'd agree with you. Yeah,
I think dogs are better than humans. Absolutely.
yeah, no, I'd agree. I'd agree with that. So if we just wind back a little bit. So why are we talking? Because obviously I know you do your talks, and I think you got books and whatever else. But why are you? Because you're a comedian as well.
Mm.
You don't need to be jumping on the mental health bandwagon. There's normally a story behind it.
Oh, 100%. Well, I mean, like, so as a teenager, I started developing anorexia, and I didn't realize that I had
Yeah,
anorexia, didn't realize that I had a mental health problem. And my mates were great. My mates were brilliant, but they didn't want to say the wrong thing. So they stopped joking with me. They stopped playing pranks on me. They stopped mucking about with me. And actually, in a weird way, that was more isolating than anything else. And long story short, whiz forward to when I was like 23, I was diagnosed as severely clinically anorexic and had to have fast track treatment and was under the care of the Maudsley Hospital for 2.5 years. And I started going through this treatment. And as I did, by then, stand up was my job. And the thing that I loved about stand up was that stand-ups were freaks. They were people that didn't fit in. They use
yeah,
humor in order to connect with other people, and I really loved that. And so as I went through therapy, I started writing the show about the anorexia, and then I went off and did that, and there was like a book and a TED talk and stuff, which was very nice. But now I'm trying to learn about. I've created a specific stand-up comedy course specifically aimed at people who have mental health problems, diagnosed or undiagnosed, to teach them stand-up comedy as a method of recovery, to teach them that it's not always bad mental health, it can be good mental health, and
absolutely.
good mental health can be fun. And for me, I think a comedy club is everything good mental health should be. Coming out with mates, big tick for your mental health. Getting out of the house, big tick for mental health. Having a laugh, big tick for mental health. And even when the show starts, you look at pretty much any comedy, it's never about, hey guys, I'm just too successful, I'm too rich, I'm too good with the opposite sex or whatever it is. It's normally, I'm broke, what am I doing with my life, I'm a disappointment to my parents, whatever. It's taking really dark things and flipping the script and making them more manageable. So for me, I think it's a no-brainer, because I think humor and comedy are good mental health.
No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I think what annoys me about the mental health, I think we've just got way over the top PC with it. So say for example, I don't want to bring it down, but what the thing what's always messed me up for about a year ago, we got I got a letter. I'm looking at some now. So basically, every now and again, we get letters or checks from funeral homes,
Wow.
which is always blown my mind, because we're not. I guess we are indirectly, but we're not an anti-suicide prevention charity. We're a men's
Mm.
mental health charity. So it's always been quite humbling that they're like, we know you can't bring our son, dad, uncle back, but can you just help us slow? Here's 200 quid, that kind of thing.
Wow.
There was one of those letters, sorry, and it kind of shows me up a little. It was one of the letters where I thought, I'm going to ring this person just to say, there was just something in it. I'm going to ring this one up just to say thank you. Because what saddens me is when we cash that check, that funeral's then over, everything's over. And I find that really, there's just something, I hate the fact of cashing in a check. Sorry, I don't want to make it all depressive, but I spoke to this sister. She said her brother, I think he was in construction, when told his boss that he feels like he wanted to commit suicide. Straight away sent him over to the HR, the mental health first aider, and they were like, "You shouldn't say committed now." And he went. She told me he went. According to the records, he said, "You know what? Fuck off," and he walked out. And they found him 6 weeks later, 6 hours later. And I'm like, if we'd have just stopped,
Yeah.
just don't worry about the word committed. It's all about the context. And I'm not blaming the HR person or whatever. I think there's probably a lot more to that. It's just let people slip up, let people make mistakes. Just listen to that person and how they are at the moment. And that made sense. So I didn't want to dampen the
Oh,
call.
no, 100%. I think it's a classic example of focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah,
And I feel like mental health has done that in general, because the truth of the matter is there is enough to be depressed or anxious or scared or angry about in the world. And I don't think that mental health should be another thing. I think people, I think blokes, me included, and people in general are motivated by fun and
yeah,
excitement and enjoyment. It's exactly like you said. You look forward to those moments with Geraldine on your lap watching EastEnders because it is a release.
yeah,
And mental health, good mental health, should be a release. So why not use things like humor in order to get people to, have a bit of a release, have a bit of fun? And there are very, very funny aspects of mental health, and there's loads of funny story. And you know what, as soon as you kind of give someone, one of the reasons I don't like using the term comedian is it's sort of a lesser one, is someone always feel that they kind of have to one up you. There can be a bit of a sort of pissing contest with that, and it's like, I don't think I'm funnier than anyone else. It's just you've learned to do so. And once people realize that you're not sort of trying to one up them, some of the stories that people tell you are funnier than anything that you could write. I think there is a great untapped resource there of funny stories of people that have got help and have got better, but in their darkest times have perhaps misunderstood something or whatever. um like, I remember a story that I always tell, and I won't do the bit, but I remember I was very suicidal once, and I loads of stuff had got on top of me, and I sort of Googled the Samaritans, and I hit call on the first number that came up, and I just kind of like, I think one of the things that annoys me about mental health is we always say just talk. And that was
yeah.
always my thing of course I wanted to just talk. Of course I wanted to sort it out. Of course I wanted to fix it, but I didn't have the words for that. So I just sort of called the Samaritans. I was like, I don't really know what I want to say. I'm kind of frustrated. I've never really told anyone this before, so I don't really know how to frame it. And I was just kind of like garbling. And then this poor bloke on the end of the phone said, I'm really sorry, mate. I think you've called the wrong number. And I was like, what? And it was like, I said, well, you said this was the Samaritans. You go, oh yeah, this is the charity shop in Willesden Green on the high street. And I just called one of their
You
charity
ruined
shops.
his day. Yeah.
And there was just some unpaid bloke. I don't know what to do. I literally have no idea. I'm not trained for this. And I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah. No, that's a brilliant story, man. Yeah, but you're right. Absolutely love stories like that. And it just because I remember there was once, I don't know where I'm going with this one. I remember there was once me and my mate, we went to Lake District or Peak District, obviously doing our wild camp thing. And I remember, what was it? He goes, a train turned up. And I remember looking at it going, it's like 4 minutes early. He goes, no, it's definitely this one. So I was like, all right, just jump on. I got like all my wet gear coming back. It was getting night, and I only had like an hour window to get back to Ipswich before having to wait until like 5 in the morning the next day. I was tired and I was grumpy. And then it goes, you're on the way to Liverpool. And I went to my mate. I'm at the point where I'm getting a bit aggy. I'm getting a bit anxious because I don't want to be sitting cold. And we started bickering. And this woman just leans over. I think she had a kid. She goes, would you both like a Kit Kat? And I remember looking at her thinking, is she taking a piss? But at that moment, that Kit Kat was the best thing. It just stopped she obviously clocked on where my mind was going, and then he was biting because I'm biting. Just, would you like a Kit Kat? And I'll tell you one thing, it was the best Kit Kat I've ever had in my life. And then we managed to just go, right, we'll get off on the next stop and then and catch the train we were supposed to be on, and everything got resolved and whatever. I don't know why I'm telling you that story, but I love it when you just talk about mental stories about like mental solutions. I think
But
we
that
need
is
to know
one.
that shit. Yeah.
I think subsequently that sounds like the most adverty advert in the
Yeah.
world. Like, you know what I mean? Of like, if
Yeah.
there was an advert
With the
for
Kit
Kit
Kat.
Kat,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
it, wouldn't it? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Absolutely. No.
But it is those little stories. It is those little things that actually affect the big stuff. Like, it's not, you know, I do think that those tiny little acts of kindness or slip ups or whatever make more difference than all of the PR campaigns, all of the posters in the world.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And so for example, my bugbear, I don't mean how that sounds, is the suicide awareness days. The
Yeah,
one
yeah.
thing I've been really, really hot on, and we've been a registered charity for 3 years, but we've been a thing for four, ever since 4th of March 2019 when Keith Flint died, because that was like because I knew him. But anyway, I noticed around 2 to 3 weeks, let's say in between 2 weeks to a month after National Suicide Awareness Day, we would start getting a lot of messages to say, oh, my dad, uncle, whatever else is sadly no longer with us. Can we do like a fundraiser at the funeral? And I started looking at stuff going, hold up, are we? I don't want to say that suicide awareness talk is triggering people because there's actually not really any evidence. But I'm like, are we kind of giving ideas? And I think we just need an overhaul of how we talk about mental health. Like, how do we talk about suicide or men need to cry, men need to cry. And actually, the scientific there's no science, and I've researched this a lot. And we're one of the few. I think we're the only men's mental health charity using our own fundraising money to research into men's mental health with PhDs, doctors, and Glasgow University. If you try and find the answer, does crying help with or fix mental health? The answer is actually no.
Wow.
It can relieve some emotion or stress for some people, but actually the answer, does crying fix mental health? Actually, it's more no than yes. So I'm like, well, why are we telling all men to cry? Because there's loads of I'm being judged. There's loads of builders and the typical masculine bloke where they might cry in secret, but they won't public. But they'll still tell you they're having a shit day. Like I said to you earlier, I'm not an emotional person. I wouldn't, if you was like, Dan, do you want a hug? I'd be like, oh, fuck off. So, do you want to come for a walk? Do you want to and be freaked out and probably never speak to you again because I'm a bloody weirdo. Try to touch me, try to hug me or whatever else. But I'll come for a pint, I'll go for a walk, I'll do wild camping and have a good old moan. The solution is still the same, just the way of getting there is just slightly different.
Yeah, I get that. And there's also like as I say, I'm at the Edinburgh Fringe at the moment. Jesus, there have been a number of times I've wanted to cry. But I don't cry. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't cry. And I would love to.
But that's the thing that the
Can't.
society is telling you there's something wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with you. You just deal with your emotional state in a different way.
Yeah. And also I think as well, something I've noticed while I've been up here is I think generally blokes, me included, are very good at saying anger is the catch-all sort of
Yeah.
emotion. Someone told me the other day, it was a nice little phrase, but they sort of said anger is never really the emotion, it's normally the outlet. There's normally something underneath, whether you're scared of something or frustrated by something or feeling out of control. And I was like, oh, that's quite a nice idea. But I get angry all the time, you know, which I think is a sort of, yeah, I think it's an outlet because I you know, I wish I had some other way of sort of outlet. I've always thought, someone told me, this is a weird kind of tangent, but there are apparently places where you can go where they have loads of crockery and they just like give you a baseball bat and you can just
I've
go
heard
in
of
and
them. Yeah.
yeah. How good does that sound?
No, it
Doesn't
does.
that
Yeah.
sound like the best thing in the world?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
I would love to do that.
Oh, mate, maybe we should start one, mate.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I think that'd be quite a yeah. I heard about that somewhere ages and ages ago, and that. So because I remember, because I was raised in the care system and all this kind of stuff. So I remember when I was like the little bratty, he'll never amount to anything and all that kind of stuff. There was one social worker what used to say, do you know, when you're full of rage, I get it. Why don't you just go in the garden and just smash up all the bushes? They're being chopped down in a couple of weeks anyway. Just go and take your rage out on them. I was like, and it bloody
You do it.
yeah, no, I did it a couple of times. Yeah, absolutely. And then I remember, if I remember rightly, that social worker got suspended for encouraging anger or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, it was just stupid. But this person years ago that basically just realised I was just building up and I'm bottling up. I just needed to go and do something. It's like take out all your rage on there because the garden's been destroyed and patioed over anyway. But yeah, they got loads of trouble for it. For promoting, I can't remember what it was. Yeah, it's stupid, but it's. I think it goes back to, isn't it, of understanding the person you're talking to and go, actually, what might be good for them?
Yeah.
Not the whole mental health first aid tick list and all of this kind of stuff. What's actually good for them? Is that a walk? Is that a chat? Or I don't know. My mate, I remember, yeah, again, we was at Peak District and we were at one of the hills, and it was slamming it down my hill with snow and hail and all this kind of stuff. And he was getting really stressed out. And I still can laugh now. There was one moment where I'm laughing because I was fully enjoying myself. He was like really anxious. He was like, we can't find a pitch and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, I think we're gonna die. It was one of those things where he just tipped him over a little bit. And I remember he's me being me, I'm laughing. I was like, I'll tell you what, I would just follow me. Let's go to the place that we know on that side of the hill and whatever else. And I'm taking the piss. Completely heck of a bit. And he's in like a bit of a state, but I wouldn't do that to somebody like you
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
anyone else. But in that situation, all I could do is take the piss. And after a while, I remember we found our pitch and he was like, you're an arsehole. Absolutely. But do you get what I mean? We got over it
100%.
and we didn't need to know the whole. You're right. Do you want to cuddle? Do you want to sit down and get and candles? And I think we just need to stop all of that stuff. I think it works for some, but yeah, absolutely. I'm waffling there, so I apologise. So
Not at all. I feel bad because I've actually I've got to shoot off as well because this is the only room in the flat that we're in where I get Wi-Fi and I need to let.
Do you know what? We always end our videos. I know we cut bits out, and I'd love to have you maybe back on it a future day. We always end our videos. Let's just pretend somebody's watching this. Obviously, we're mental health charity. We get a lot of females supporting us as well. If somebody's watching this, I don't know that there might be a bit aggy, triggery. Someone's just going on. What would you tell them to do? I know it's how long's a piece of string, so I apologise, but
You know what? Like I think my thing for that is I would always say it's okay to not know because one of the things that frustrates me about mental health is people always say just talk or people expect people who have mental health problems to know, but actually it's like the frog in the boiling water. I don't know if you've heard that analogy of like, you know, if you put a frog in
yeah.
and you slowly build the water, the frog boils to death because it doesn't realize the water's getting hotter. And I think that's exactly the same with mental health, that you perhaps don't realize that your mood has been dipping every single day or that you've been getting increasingly angry every single week. So I would say if someone is thinking maybe there's something a little bit wonky in the old upstairs department, it's okay to not know the golden bullet. It's okay to not know specifically what it is and definitely not what to do in that moment. I do think it takes time, and I think a lot of the things that annoy me about mental health is that it is always treated like it's something physical, that it's like, right, it's a scratch on my leg, that's it. But actually very little of any type of health is like that. It's very hermeneutic. So I'd say it's okay to not know what's going on, and it's okay to not know how to sort that out. The important thing is the will to try and find loads of different stuff.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I'm a massive fan. I know everyone jumps on about exercise, and exercise mental health does work. But do you know, sometimes just go for a walk to the shop. and this is something, and again, I've said this before, and I'm only speaking through my lived experience, and I find it absolutely hilarious sometimes. I'm more mental than the people who are trying to help. You know what I mean? I have to deal with like the high functioning depression, BPD, and all this kind of stuff. And I've had an eating, so I was bulimic years ago. So and that still floats around every now and again. It really does. So I do laugh about that. But I now have to take steps, do the wild camping, racing motorbikes, do stuff because I had to teach myself that now I'm on the good side most of the time. I have to fight to stay out of the pity party.
I like that.
Because we can do it, and people can moan. I've had a whinger before. It's like you don't know what it's like. It's easy for you. Actually, it's not easy for me because I've been in loads of pity parties, and I probably will. We have to go. Right, I need to get out of this bed. I need to get off this sofa, and I need to do stuff because your house can turn into a prison.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
It's like just go for a walk. Just go for a walk. And do you know what
Yeah.
that bearded TikTok bloke? If you really have to, go to the fucking gym. You know that viral one. That viral one. You must have seen it. Where
I haven't seen this.
oh, it was ages ago, but it's basically there was just I don't know somebody struggling to walk upstairs or whatever else, and he'll get their clip and then he'll just come charging like a Viking, and he'll just go to the fucking gym, and that was his one thing. It was just the way he did it, which is always so funny. But yeah, again, I don't think everyone should go to the gym. Go for a walk, go to the garden, do something. Do you know what?
Yeah.
Make your bed, just something, just to snap yourself out of it.
Now I can get on board with that.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, dude, I know that you're probably going to get kicked out of the room. We've been waffling for a little while, so I do apologise. But I'd love to have you back on here as well. So let me hit the unrecord button wherever I